All right, guys. Sorry I already got started, but I just started doing it. And it's like, you guys, I should probably make a video on this. So my mk5 GTI here, the sunroof has been getting leaky over the last couple of years. So the seal's worn out. I don't really use it. Actually, the mechanism's partially broken. So I decided I'm going to delete it because these things are laser welded along the roof line. You can't easily reskin the whole roof. So what I decided to do was I'm gonna make a fiberglass plug that'll just kind of bolt in to this pinch weld, and I can seal it up and it'll be good. Pretty much that's the only reason I'm gonna do it. But if you had a race car and you wanted to delete it, this is actually kind of a pretty good way to do it. Hopefully it works like I think it will. If not, you won't see this video. But what I got started here is I put a trash bag over the sunroof, and I laid up some fiberglass on a piece of glass, like a sheet of just regular plain glass. And I peeled it off and I made these strips. And then I shoved these strips in between the sunroof gasket and the roof. So this should pretty much line up with the exterior, like, keep the curve of that hole perfectly. And basically what I'm gonna do is I'm going to fiberglass over this trash bag, and that should make me a kind of a cap thing. And then I can trim these off flush with what's left here, sink that down into the roof just a little bit further than these things are now. And that should hopefully give me a good looking product. I can smooth it out, I can paint it, it'll look nice. So I'm gonna give it a try and we'll see how it goes, but stay tuned. Alrighty, so I got the first kind of layer of fiberglass over top of everything. You can see there's a wrinkle in it. It really doesn't matter. We're going to sand it all down, smooth it all down. But I ran out of resin and matte, so I'm going to get more of both of those. Throw another couple layers on here so it's nice and rigid, because we want this to be rigid and keep its shape when we take it off. But I will come back after Okay, I'm not sure if you can hear me, but I took a piece of the woven cloth and kind of trimmed it down so it's about the right size. This will be my top layer, but it just helps if it's about the right size to begin with. The chop mat, I will just kind of feed in there, tear off and feed in there. As you can see, this is like the first two layers, and where these bubbles are is a little flimsy, but we'll get enough layers on there that won't matter, and we'll get to that. All right, I mixed up my resin, and I wetted down what I had existing there, and I'm just gonna start laying chop mat into it. You're supposed to wear gloves, but I don't have any. Alrighty, so I got it laid up and dried. So we're gonna see if we can't pop this thing out of here. All right, guys, so time for a little update. So I got the sunroof panel laid up, I took it out, and I trimmed off the excess that was sticking up around here. Started kind of smoothing out the highs and the low spots. I got a little extra thickness to work with because it's like 4 layers thick. So it should be pretty good. But I did run into a couple issues that I just didn't think about it. So if it will focus. Okay, so this is the really smooth stuff. I laid up a sheet on a piece of glass and then used that to make that outside rim, like I mentioned. You'll notice this isn't super smooth, but it's also got a bunch of tape on it because I used the smooth side in, not thinking about it, and it was too slick and the fiberglass is kind of just popped apart. So what I'm gonna do for that is I'm going to, back up, refocus. So I'm going to fiberglass another layer from the bottom. Make sure I sand up everything real well so it sticks. Put another layer in there, and that should hopefully hold this outside edge on real well, and we won't have to worry about that too much. So if you're doing this, put that rough side in, or rough side towards the middle, or you should actually probably sand that with like 80 grit before you start the process, and that should keep that ledge on there. I'm not sure if this is going to be my final product, or if I'm going, or my final like piece for my car, or if I'm going to make the plug and then, or make one and then make a mold off of that one and then make the production, or make like a production piece or not. I'm debating if I'm going to try to sell this once it's done. So if I'm going to make a mold anyways, then it won't really cost much to make one for me. And I can make it a little bit lighter, which I don't really care about making it lighter on this car, but we will see. But anyways, I got it. And you can kind of see how it's supposed to fit down in here. It's still got the sunroof and mechanism underneath here, as you can see. So that's as far down as that'll go. But it kind of seems like it fits the shape of the roof fairly well. Once we get more work done, we can finalize that. So it basically should follow the blend pretty well. Of course, I did the same stupid thing on this side, but the rest of it's pretty good. So we'll get that fixed up. I bought a giant thing of Bondo. So once this is kind of roughed in and how we want it, all we really got to do is get it smooth. So we will body fill this down, get everything smooth, block it smooth, make it look good. I will pop this out and I will show you the underside and stuff. All right, so this is the underside. It looks super, I mean, it kind of looks like a mountain in here, just from where the trash bag has some highs and lows. So we're gonna knock that down relatively flat before we put the inside layer in. And that should hopefully give us a good solid result. Like I said, it really doesn't matter too much, but any voids are just not really helping with strength at all. So we'll sand that smooth and do that. You can see like rough, smooth, rough, smooth. So where it's rough, it's not really doing what it's supposed to do. I also have these kind of like cracks here where I had two different pieces kind of joining together. We'll take those out later, but the extra layer will help hold all that stuff together. See, what else was I gonna say? So if you do have like where one of these flanges is crooked, you can take a heat gun and bend them back on themselves, like heat it and bend it. And then as it cools off, it'll kind of hold that new shape. Alrighty, so I got the edge trimmed off after I did another layer from the inside. You can kind of see we're fairly close to the profile of the roof on these edges. There's a little bit that needs to come off the front edge, which you can kind of see it's built up high still. So we're gonna try to start smoothing that off. And then it's just a matter of packing Bondo in here and taking fiberglass down or whatever, just making it smooth. All right, so I did a skim coat of body filler over this whole thing. It's not a skim coat, this is like half a quart of body filler. But I did a smooth coat. This is the first one, so we'll see where it ends up. Alrighty, so I threw that coat of Bondo on, I sanded it down, I kind of tested it and realized that I wasn't really getting sharp, smooth edges with the rest of the car. So pretty much my solution for that is I'm throwing this in the car. I have multiple layers of tape to hopefully protect the paint. And then I got some 80 grit on a board, and we're gonna start kind of hammering this down and see if we can't get it smooth. And so we got low here, high in the middle. So we're gonna start taking care of that and see what we end up with. Alrighty, so I'm working the sanding block. Add extra tape as you need to make sure you got, you're not gonna scratch your roof any. But you're basically gonna wanna go along
you kind of want to work in both directions because it's going to be kind of a compound curve. But mostly you need to make sure at this point that the edge with the roof is, you know, flat and parallel. It can be a little proud as long as everything's proud evenly. That means it's, you know, above the surface. You can see just a little bit, but the fiberglass is going to eat your sandpaper super fast. It's actually a really hard surface. So change your paper often, keep going. You'll have, you know, your highs and your lows. I think if I were to do this again, I would probably try to do something else instead of that trash bag that kind of wrinkled. But either way, we're making progress. I got the sunroof assembly out right now. I forgot to mention that. So the roof will sit all the way down in the panel, and don't push too hard because this will kind of flex. See, we're a little low in the back and proud in the front, and I tried to line it up as even as I could, but yeah, we'll just start working on it like this, and we should be able to get it pretty close pretty fast. All right, guys, so several Bondo applications later, and here is the panel kind of sitting in place. We are pretty close. We got a little high in the middle. See, pretty much everything is pretty damn close. We can kind of work that out just during the installation. So I think we're pretty good. I have marked a couple places that are a little tight. We will kind of sand that down. I'm gonna take a little bit off the entire flange area just to give it a little extra room so we can get it in and out and all of that. But I think this is pretty much ready. We are going to prime it. After the primer, we'll sand it. And if we are looking good, we will probably just clear over the primer and not even bother with base coat because it's just wasting money at this point. But looking pretty good. So you got, things are a little tiny bit off, but like I said, I think we can kind of manipulate that as we're installing it. I have a coat of primer on it, which I just sanded down to about 320 grit. I actually only had 220 paper, but then I used a red Scotch-Brite, which is about 220. We got, see, a little bit of sand through, but that's not a big deal. And there's still a little bit of pitting on these edges, but we will just cover that in wax when we make the mold. Not really important to get too into it. If you have any pinholes, which are pretty common, just glazing putty. This is shit for like actual body work, but this isn't really gonna have much life outside of just being a mold, so it'll hold up for that. So this is primed with urethane, which sands easy. Any 2K primer should be fine. And so we are now going to throw a coat of clear coat just straight on top of the primer. As long as you sand it, you can do that. This is sanded to 320. All base coat really is just color. So this will be perfectly fine. We'll just have a shiny gray piece to make a mold off of. So I'm going to throw some clear coat on it and show you guys what it'll do. All right, and here we are. You can see it's pretty glassy. We got some dust in it, but that's to be expected from, you know, spraying in the garage. So that's pretty much ready to make a mold out of. We will sand and buff out the dust, and you'll see it'll be, you know, looking smooth like a finished product. The smoother you make this, the smoother your parts are going to turn out. So you can see it looks pretty good. You got them lights right there. You can see the reflection. It's got a little bit of, it's a little wonky, but not really, not bad. You wouldn't really notice too much. Once we get the dust out, a lot of this stuff will look a lot better. But we'll show you that when we're done and start doing the mold process. All right, guys, in typical almost legit garage fashion, I got distracted and didn't film as much as I should, and finished the project before I finished filming everything for the project. So anyways, here is the mold that I came up with. I was gonna make a video on how to make the mold, but it turns out that I am not the one who you should be taking advice from. when it comes to mold. I got some gel coat kind of stuck here and a little bit of messiness to it. There's far better people out there on YouTube to show you how to do it. Just throwing that out there. But anyways, I attached some flange to it, and that flange actually came in handy when I put it in the car because I had a little bit of a flange, probably 1/2 inch or something like that. So I ended up using window adhesive, kind of put a bead around that flange and the kind of side part, or side flange, so it kind of sits in there like that. But yeah. Anyways, I put some window adhesive around all of that, and then kind of smushed it up in the hole from the bottom. I TIG welded together some aluminum brackets to hold it together. That was totally unnecessary. The window adhesive is plenty strong and probably where all the strength comes from. But I got a new TIG welder, so I wanted to play with that. As you can see, the finish on the part isn't like super fantastic. I've been meaning to sand it and buff it and see if I can get it looking a little better, but I have not done that yet. So I put the window adhesive, shoved it up in the hole. I have Clecos. I put Clecos in to hold it temporarily. Then I replaced those with some stainless steel rivets. They were 1/8 inch, just small ones. So that's kind of another part of the physical adhesion, because you always want to have, like your chemical bond, like your adhesives, and then you want to have like a physical attachment just in case anything happens with the chemical bond or whatever. So anyways, then I taped out about a 1/2 inch bead, or 1/2 inch all the way around the panel. And then I put down a bead of the window adhesive and smoothed it out. And then I pulled the tape off and it kind of left this nice little, it looks kind of like it actually is a normal factory sunroof gasket. I'm actually probably going to try to sand this down so it doesn't have like all these imperfections to it. I didn't do the superest of jobs. It's one of those things where you kind of do what you think you can do and it works out for the most part. But anyways, that's in there. It's been working good. See, I put it in over, I guess, in March, and I've been racing the car 3-4 times. I mean, you don't really notice any flex. It's a little louder than it was when it had a sunroof. But that's understandable. You could probably take some like cheap insulation and like cheap like sound deadening insulation stuff, like the stuff that looks like a bunch of fibers woven together, and fill the inside of the panel with that, and that should help with the noise. But inside, all I did was I took, there's a metal ring, without light you can't see it. There was kind of a metal retaining ring for the sunroof that clips in around the bracket. Well, I riveted my sunshade to that, snapped that into the clips that existed. Up under here where the sunroof mechanisms were, there's just nothing. It's a little rattlier, but not a big deal. I still have my knobby thing. If you wanted to, I'm sure you could put a hardtop sunroof in one of these. I just didn't bother. Kind of works out cool because, like, if you didn't know any better, this looks like a sunroof car. But yeah, that's my final product. Hopefully this kind of helps inspire you if you want to do it. Reach out to me if you want to get one of these parts produced or whatever. I have the mold. I've been meaning to go back through and kind of refinish it and make it a little bit nicer so I can put out good parts a little bit more easily. But I just haven't got to it yet. It's kind of the finish you can expect. It's got a little bit of waviness to it, but not too bad. But anyways, thanks for watching. Subscribe. I know this turned into a longer video than I was expecting, but you know, that kind of happens a lot. I'll probably throw a little clip in to show the sunroof better if I can find a good clip of it. I think I took one. But anyways, that's me. Anyways, subscribe, check in. We got plenty of projects going on. I'm trying to get a huge backlog of videos up, so I'll be posting a little bit more. Thanks, guys. Okay, so it's kind of dark in here, so I'm not sure how well it'll show up. But I have the sunshade pulled out of the sunroof mechanism and permanently attached to the headliner. So basically what I did was there's this retaining ring around here, and I just put some pop rivets in multiple places, and that holds it together, and then that snaps back in like OEM. I'm missing a couple clips because, you know, hoopty. But that filled that hole, and pretty much the only difference is we won't notice any light through there once it's in. So keeping it kind of, you know, keeping it as stock as we can.